Hey y'all, how's everyone doing? Today I'm going to talk about choir life in Lldm. I was thinking about talking about this for a bit already, for a good minute, and thinking about the ups and downs, several downs, especially as an assistant director, as a director, several downs. I mean, a lot of downs. Having that responsibility, especially hearing stuff coming from the members. But I think about it overall and what it meant to me to be a choir member, to be part of the choir in church. And I got a little emotional thinking about it last night. I made a lot of friends. I met a lot of people, a lot of good people. Um, Especially when you get to go to GDL. It was a really nice feeling. There's a lot of goods and a lot of bads. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's essentially why I talk about it's my experiences. And to give you guys just a little man, forgetting the word, but just to let you guys know how much it meant to me, choir was my whole life. Even before I was born, my mom would play cassette. Would play cantos from cassette players at the time and put it right on her belly for me to listen to. And and as a kid, I was always involved with choir. I loved it. I loved it. I loved what it meant to be part of a choir ever since I was a kid. Having that first uniform with my little burgundy beige cape I had at the time. I don't even know if I had pictures of that. But getting excited to buy a uniform, to be part of the choir was just always just the highlight of my life when I was in church was choir. In a way, a form of escaping. But then you think about it from what? You start hearing a lot of drama when you're in choir. But choir life it's just a sub community. You're part of this already conservative community, and now you're part of a smaller, even more, kind of harder to get in kind of deal. Um, all it was is just a smaller yet more strong knitted community within already this pretty conservative community. This very this sect, this cult. So all my life, I loved it. I loved it as a kid. What it meant to be part of the heart of church. I'm like, that's a huge role. That's an important role. And I understood everybody had their role in church. That's the idea that we all are doing our part to be better Christians and to save our souls and all that. Yada yada yada, right? But choir to me called my attention because it was so significant. You're part of the angels that sing here on earth. The angels up in heaven are jealous of you because you're a child of God singing to God as a choir. Like you have these perfect beings, as they call it, who can sing perfectly to God, but He'd rather listen to you, an imperfect being, giving your all your heart. And I used to think like I would give my heart out to choir, my mind, my soul, my everything, because this was my way to communicate to God. This was my way to talk to God. This was my way to feel God. It was through music. It was choir. Shinzo Sasageo. Choir was just everything. And yeah, there's a reason why I was getting very emotional last night, thinking about the good memories, what it meant to hear the choirs when you're in GDL. When you're in GDL, that's a different feel to it, a different vibe. Um, at the time, I think about just what it meant to wake up in the morning listening to choir sing. You're getting a cup of coffee, tu panecito, homemade bread, coffee that's usually made out of love by these brothers who wake up early in the morning. A lot of good memories. The smell of the GDL streets, getting ready, getting your toga ready, getting your your outfit ready, getting your hair, everything ready, getting in line and being in line for a while waiting for those people who would never wait in line. And I listen to them like, these are your best voices? Get out of here. I've heard better voices by these guys who are much nicer, who probably deserve it more, who do deserve it more, because they're the ones having to, especially meeting the other choir assistants, other assistant directors or representatives or other directors. Like, we shared a lot of similar things and the problems that we faced. And that was always a big discussion. Like, the favoritism, nepotism, but usually favoritism in church. We are going to have to be in line 2 hours, an hour and a half early. Then you get the guys that are the favorited, or the ones that are going to be under the microphone. I'm like, these are your guys? I could do better. And I don't even have that college experience or that musical experience. She could do better. But he's got a better ear than. And this is barely the tip of the iceberg, because it gets worse than that when it comes to the worst parts of choir. Because you think about choir, it's supposed to be the purity, it represents the heart. Meaning, if your heart is good, then the rest of the body is good. So if your choir is doing bad, then you know the church is doing bad. That's the analogy that was always used when referencing the choir, and the meaning of being the heart of that. And people could even do that, just make the sacrifice. But the nitty and gritty of being in choir was me as an assistant director. And part of it I would like to talk about in another video, the propaganda that church sells. But I'll talk a little bit about it here because it plays a lot. Hearing when the apostles would talk about that we were the perfect church, the most united church, especially around Holy Supper time. And I'm like, no, we're not. I always thought in my head, why is he saying that? I'm seeing it. And I would think, maybe he hasn't seen or felt the presence of Atlanta, our members. Or when I would talk to other people, like, maybe he hasn't felt the presence and sensed that this choir is doing bad. These people are not united. These people are always trash talking within the altos to the sopranos, the elders, the married folk to the younger folk. That was always a big problem. Me as an assistant, me as a director. Hermana Bisaí, dile a las hermanas que tienen mucho maquillaje. Hermana Bisaí, están hablando mucho. Hermana Bisaí, I'm like, and I'll listen to it, and like, you had to be, I don't even know what the right word is in order for you to be a good director. I don't think no one can prepare you to be a director in church when you see a lot of drama, when you feel it firsthand, when they tell you all this. I'm like, whoa, you guys are very childish. Stop. Good Lord, all you guys are childish. Like, there are certain rules that in church you follow. But one of the things I always preferred, there's always that thought, especially amongst the older folks, that it has to be this way, and there is no other way. I mean, that's how a cult works too, but these had a more old-fashioned and old-style mentality. That slowly, as we've seen the years, how lenient the doctrine has gotten. You see people with tight skirts, people with makeup, things were considered a sin at one point in church, then frowned upon. Now it's acceptable. But you always had this mentality among the older people, especially the older sisters, always trash talking, and this is the experience here in Atlanta, to the younger sisters, and the younger sisters always trash talking to the older sisters, like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, they're just jealous, I got my young skin and all. It was just always drama. And I'm like, that's not how a heart's supposed to work. That was always my big thing. Like, can we get along? Can we not judge people? We're no one to judge. Why are we judging? Why are we criticizing like that? Let's just do our best, work together, and produce the best music to God. because that was the goal. That was always the objective. That was my objective. That was the whole purpose of me. My whole purpose. Uh, Church life ruled my whole life. As most people who are from church, especially those that attended church daily and those that were very involved in church activities, church life was your whole life. And when you're in choir, choir life is your whole life. I remember when I first became an assistant, when they first put me as a director. I think I'd recently, this was the time I dropped out of college, I want to say, and I focused on my business. And one of the main reasons why I started my business, if I'm being completely honest, was a huge part of it was so that I can have more time for me to come back from work and focus on learning the music so I can then teach it. That was the main reason why I got the business, why I decided to. Yeah, you heard at the time that someone wanted everybody to start going back to college or starting their business, doing something that could better themselves, and it did play a role. But the biggest part was, hey, this will give me time for me to come back. I can come back whatever time I want, come back a little earlier, go and look over the songs, learn the cantos, play. I had to get a keyboard, I remember, and I know the notes. I don't know how to play it, but I'm like, oh, this is C, D. So I'll play that, learn it, and by the time we got back, I sometimes have to miss the prayer so I can really learn the song. Get your typical, oh, I'm coming the last 10, 15 minutes at least. But that was the main reason why I started my business, was to have time for myself to learn these cantos so that we can improve. Because I really felt when they put me up as a director, I'm like, and to give you guys a little backstory, they had me as an assistant director for a couple of years before putting me as a director, maybe a year or two. And during that time, they had me direct the Holy Supper, the regional. Man, it's been years. This has been years. 2015 was the Holy Supper, February 2015, right? It was either 2015 or 2016, that Holy Supper. And it was by region, and Georgia within the states around it. And out of all the choir directors, the minister put me, the one that was helping the choir, put me as the director, an assistant director. I wasn't even the director at the time. When the universal baptisms happened in Florida, again within that same region, that day came, the day before of the baptisms, the choir directors were kind of struggling in teaching the songs. They didn't really know what to do. And the sister who was in charge was like, oh man, we need to do something about it. And I went up to her, and I wasn't, again, even people were like, hey, you should help. Like, hey, you should really help. I had people encouraging me. I'm like, I don't want to get involved. I want to just chill. I want to sing and chill. I don't have to worry about staying after. And I want to have the feeling like, oh, he's just here to show off. But I was like, you know what? We need this. If this is the universal baptisms, if people are going to be looking at us from the public park that we were at, we want to do the best. So I told the sister, hey, can you give me a chance? Like, I think I can teach it, and I think we can get to it. I think we could do something. We don't have that much time, but if you can let me, I think they'll listen to me. I was young, 2016, good Lord, 21, 22. Again, as an assistant director, and I started teaching the songs. I was like, hey, giving them the beat, going through the aisle, getting expressive. No, we need to do this. Please look up at me. Like, giving my stance and telling them just how much it meant to me. This is how much it meant to me. So immediately she was like, all right, we're putting you as the director. You're directing tomorrow. And you're gonna start off the songs too. Then I'm like, oh. In my head, I'm like, Gloria Cristo. Like, in my head, I'm not gonna lie. In my heart, I was like, wow, these are blessings from God I'm getting. This means something. To eventually, and as an assistant director, the minister, when a son came to Atlanta in his gira, in his little tour he had, they put me to start out. I start off that new song. I'm the one that starts the song off, and I'm directing the choir as an assistant director. So you can only imagine like a 21, 22 young me, who is in love with music, who's in love with choir, all of a sudden feel like, hey, look at you. Look at what you're doing. Look where you're heading. You're fulfilling that dream, your purpose. This is your purpose. This was my purpose. And that's what made exiting church one of the hardest things in my life, was taking away that purpose, because that was my purpose. As a young kid, I remember telling my dad, going to Kmart. We were in Kmart after buying a Yu-Gi-Oh pack. From there, we went to Burlington, and I don't have good memory. I have horrible memory, but there are a couple of memories I have um, within my lifetime that I can remember vividly, and that's one of those memories that I have. As a kid, after getting a booster pack, a Metal Raiders booster pack from Kmart. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh pack back in the day. It's 2002. Going to Burlington and telling my dad, hey, I want to be the biggest help for the servant of God. This was for Samuel at the time. I want to be the biggest help. And ever since, that's stuck in me. And I felt that the purpose, my purpose, and in order for me to do that, it started to feel it, especially during this time, was this is my calling, this is my purpose. Here I am moving the church. Here I am able to move. I remember instances when I would start off the choir during revivals, and before even the consecration started, the whole church was speaking tongues, because we got the whole choir involved. You can tell someone, and I think you guys can agree on, you can feel something when there's something tangible when you feel something so real. When a choir, I know it's not a cult, I understand this is a cult, but we used to believe in this stuff, and when you're believing in it, it feels real, right? Everything. So you're giving your realness, your authenticness. So I was here I was directing the choir, having them sing these songs, and they started getting emotional, and the whole church starts getting emotional. The whole church falls into tongues, and you're just and then you're feeling it, and you're letting the Holy Spirit guide you. You're just moving, and you're just and all of a sudden you're just, now it's your turn to be able to finally get down and speak your tongues. That's how much it meant to me. That's what it meant to me. This was my purpose. And I'm sure a lot of people who were very involved in choir, ex-choir directors, ex-choir assistants, ex-members even, it was a lot. And to me, it was my purpose. I'm like, one day I'm gonna be his right-hand man director. I don't know how, but I'm gonna be. And I was heading there. I was seeing it firsthand. I'm like, holy shit. Look at what they're doing to me as an assistant director. Now imagine as a director. I am I'm making God smile. I'm making the servant of God happy. I'm making him smile. And that was always the objective as a little kid. I want to make him the happiest. I want to be the most useful I can for him. I want him to feel that he can rely on me. And I felt like through choir, that was the way. That was the way to get the masses. That was the way to intrigue the listeners, the visitors, to listening to the music, to looking at me direct, and to feeling the choir feel what we're feeling, and to move the visitors. That was what I felt was my purpose. And I was heading that way. And I'm sure, like I've said before, you guys can, to a degree, if not even furthermore, can at least feel, and we can share the same feelings. What it meant to go over the songs, to listen to the cantos, to talk to your other choir buddies, either from the same state or from a different state, like, hey, can you help me with a voice? Yeah, I got you with a voice. I could do bass, I could do tenor. Can you help me do soprano? Can you help me do alto? Having people who were better than you, and that was always my thing too. When I became a director, and it made it that much harder too. I knew immediately, like, how I got into this position means that there are other people out here who also want to help. So I'm like, hey, anybody who wants to help me. I know some of you guys have a better ear than me. I know some of you guys can sing better than me. I know some of you guys are even eager to learn and want to do what I'm doing eventually. I'm not gonna be here forever. That was the idea. That was the thought. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna get out. Start your own life. Get married and all like church and choir, be involved. I don't know. Who knows what was gonna happen? Um, and I always saw these other people. I'm like, no, we gotta prepare them. We gotta prepare the next. It was always me thinking ahead. I'm like, all right, now I'm here. Let's use these gifts, these dones, these people who are willing to help. Hey, you want to help? All right, this is what I do. This is you. We can start like this. Get your 4-4. You want to teach? You know your notes. All right, cool. Just go over, listen. It's not too hard. My beginning sucked, but here I am. Yeah, I know. Always encouraging them, and that's why it was, especially when I was in charge of the youth choir, we loved it. One time they're like, oh, after like doing an hour and a half rehearsal, the choir as a whole was like, oh, we're done. Can we could do another 30 minutes? I'm like, good Lord. I'm like, it's about 30 minutes. That's 10 o'clock. I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to get out of here. But they were like, no, man, this is. So when you have that passion and everyone else feels it, and then they start feeding off of you, and you start feeling your purpose, you're like, this is what you were. This was your reason. This is why you were born. This is your purpose. This is to help the church, help God, help the apostle. You're fulfilling it, and you're helping these fulfill their purposes too. Like, it was such a beautiful emotion, such a sense of relief that God's listening to you, that God's favoring you, that the apostle is now thinking of you. I've heard when he came and the minister started telling me, like, hey, we like how you direct. We love how the choir sings. So much passion, so much fire. And I'll make sure to tell the apostle. I'll make sure to tell the apostle about you. What do you think that does to a kid who's 21, 22, who already feels like this is his purpose, who already feels like, hey, you're somehow, by the grace of God, you fell and were born into this church. And now you're being mentioned to the apostle by a high-ranking minister. Hey, this kid's got something. Hey, this choir has something. Hey, there's something about this city. Like, you start, and this isn't to stroke my ego. Sincerely, it was just, I was like, wow, this is life. This is what I was meant for. To feel like this was your purpose. That's why it was hard for me. I was planning on talking about it differently, but this is my experience. I'm not here to trash talk. I'm not here. I'm strictly speaking about my experience, the good and the bad. And this was definitely the good. Definitely not. When you think about it, it wasn't good. But at the time, you felt like this was everything. And me feeling like, wow, my name is being mentioned to the servant of God. My choir, our city is being mentioned to the servant of God. He's noticing us. It was like, I'm doing the right thing. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot too, and I don't know how long I should be talking to, but there's some bad, and we'll get to it. There's always a people, and I know I'm jumping. I'm now gonna head immediately to the negatives, because there is, and I don't want to focus too much on this purpose, because it was one of those hard things for me. And I think one of the reasons also why I made my post on Reddit on Lldm and then my videos, because subconsciously I knew, I see why people come back after they leave cults. It's one of those things that. And I'm like, subconsciously, I'm like, no, you will never go back to that place again. So in a way, these videos help me kind of like, remember what it was before, but also remember where you're at right now. So let's immediately head and talk about the negatives, because there was so much of it. And we'll start with the propaganda. Like, we're this unity. We're supposed to be this unified church, this unified choir, but we're not. And as I mentioned, I did briefly talk about it, now I'm thinking about it. But other things that also tallied in was other members who thought they could do your job. And to be honest, I'm like, you probably could do it then. That gives me time to focus on other stuff. I miss singing. I would direct and sing when I would direct, but I miss singing my voice. So I was always more than okay with that. Where people are like, all right, you want to take my spot? Go for it. You know, do it. Try it. Like I wasn't like retando. Like I'm like, oh, you know, like all right, bet, see if you can. It was more like, oh, shoot, the more the merrier. The more help I have, the better. And but you could always tell some of the intentions, very malicious intentions, like, oh, I'm just here to direct, or I'm here just to take a spot. If he can do it, I can do it. And they start doing it, and they start feeling like the pressure. I'm like, yeah, you could probably direct, sure. You could probably start a song, fine. But can you be in charge of what was it, my time? 60 people? Or if it's the youth, 30 folks? Can you handle all this pressure? And man, always feel bad for other directors, other assistants, uh, telling me, oh, well, there's this sister here who is making my life difficult. And I'm like, similar stuff around choir life. Always the people that are there to bring you down, right? Always the people that make your life difficult. Always people who are jealous of you, or envious of you. Like, damn, you think you can do my job? Then do it. But there's that maliciousness, right? And it just proves, and it just adds on to like, hey, what happened to us being unified? What happened to the choir having to be the purity of the church, of the body of Christ being the heart? Where is that all at? You see, like, man, they're making it difficult for me to direct. I'm like, yeah, it is. These people made it hard. And I want to emphasize on this because the propaganda the church sells, and I think I will make a video about this in a future video, the propaganda, how they're good at marketing. Their strategy is very leans towards that of a strategy of someone who is their career is in marketing, like branding, but there's no substance behind it. Oh, this is the happiest place on earth, um, the most unified choir, the heart, and like it was none of that was true. None of it. When you break it down, one thing is to say it and repeat it, and another thing is to actually listen to it and see if it is true or not. I'm like, oh no, that's not true. There's so much toxicity and negativity in choir. Um, and I think I mentioned in my other video just how when I got to the position as a director, people didn't want people. There were a couple of people that reminded me, "Hey, you're here because of me. Remember, because of me and our little group, we got the minister to get you as a choir director. So now you listen to us. Just as much as we gave you the position, we could take it away from you." I'm like, man, I didn't want this position. I'm 22, 21. I want to be worried about other stuff. I love choir. I'd rather be a member, but at the time, I didn't want all that. And now to have someone, my hard work, be all of a sudden felt like, oh, you're only here because of me. I'm like, no. But that was just more reasons for me to start questioning the doctrine. And I think for us all to start really diving in and thinking, well, let's think about what they tell us and try to dissect it. All right, the doctrine's supposed to be perfect. They tell us that we're perfect, but we're not, none of it. Okay, we're humans. All right, fine. We're bound to make mistakes. But when you start seeing things that they're just so repetitive and it just, when you start, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot to think about when you start listening to these things. When you start hearing the perfect church, the most unified church, the most. I'm forgetting some of these things. I gotta research some of the things that they talk about this. But it is one of those things that they tell you, like, we're the most united church. The choir, this, and that. And they'll take pictures, and then behind the scenes, it's just a different thing. No nos llevamos. We're not getting along. We're not. But that's not something they'll preach. By then, you're already. By then, it's too late. You've been baptized. You're too deep into the cult. Now you're part of it. If you're a new guy. you're a new person. My experience as a choir member, me personally, it meant a lot. It meant a lot. And I'm sure a lot of you people feel hopeless or felt hopeless. You know, I remember when I made my first video, there was a couple of people reaching out to me like, yeah, you and I, we share the same thing. Choir was so much for me. Choir meant this and that. And now I feel like a waste of time. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. I know. I think about it. I think about it less now, and it doesn't come up as often, but it when you start really thinking about it, like, wow, for me at least, I'm like, you could have done a change, you could have, but you can't, not when the whole foundation is based around fraud and fakeness, and it's not even the truth. How can you change something that when the foundation isn't even right? You, um, so just like me questioning and pondering what the process of receiving the Holy Spirit, so was the idea of coming back to church and helping out the choir, because I know the youth needed it. Terrible leaders here in church for the youth. Terrible leaders. Terrible, bad ministers, bad administration, bad people to tell the youth what to do and what not to do. And I remember when I would give explanations, or as a director, I would be in charge of a lot of things. They put me a lot of responsibilities, and I saw just how much leadership the youth needed. Like, they just need good motivation. And these people are bad to motivate. And that was another part of it, being having the purpose. and feeling that purpose, and all of a sudden, like, oh, now it's, what do I do? You could definitely translate those skills for a job if you wanted to, but the question more is, what do I do then with, when you think about my time spent? You could think of it as a waste, sure, but there's always something good to take things out from. And if you're feeling that way, because I get it, I do get it. It's you have all this energy now. You thought you had all this purpose, and now it's gone. Transmit that energy. Use that same energy. Use that same motivation. Oh, okay. Here I thought I was going to be the biggest help for who I thought was the most important man on earth. All right, now do it for yourself. Translate that and move it to you then. Because you're the most important person in your life, is yourself. Okay, I wanted to be the assistant, to be his right-hand man. You wanted to be this, and that. All right, do it for you. You can do it to you now. All right, so what if so what if this is a fake church? So what if this is a cult? So what if this is a sect? Don't think of it as a waste of time. It's an experience that we went through, and we got to make the most out of it. And I really do believe that you can transmit that energy for something good, for yourself. Use that energy for you. Our whole lives was revolved around one man, was revolved around this church. And we could even concentrate on the good in us. We could even concentrate on what made us us. And this is one of the things that I start analyzing. There's artistic abilities in me. There's something passionate in me. There's something about me when I think about when I would even interpret. When I would interpret not just word by word, but I would give emotion to the point that some of the brothers and sisters who didn't even speak English would go up to me and tell me, hey, I don't speak English, but I listen to you more than the minister or whoever's taking it because you're very expressive. You keep me up. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm just following your diction and all that. I'm like, so I've tried to think about the skills that I've used in church, whether it be in choir or as an interpreter. And I'm like, all right, there's something there that because of the environment I was in, I wasn't able to fully spread my wings. But here I am now. Here I am going back and thinking and analyzing. I wanted to be this help. I wanted to be that. I wanted to do this. This is what it meant to be. This was my purpose. Redirect it to yourself now. Redirect it to what matters. And that's why a part of me, that's why I'm pursuing to be a pro wrestler. It's why I'm pursuing something more on the artistic, passionate side. I'm like, no, I'm 28 and I still feel like I got a couple of good years left in me. Let's make the most out of it. Go back. There's nothing wrong with going back and listen. And I'm a history major, so my whole that career, that to get that degree, you're always analyzing the past, trying to figure out why things are, why things are the way they are, or why things happen the way that happen, and try to be very objective, be as unbiased as you can, and try to analyze everything. So putting that into use, hopefully you could take that advice if you're listening, if you've gotten this far in this video. I know I talk a lot. I don't know, do you guys mind that? Still don't know. I know it's my channel, but I'd like to hear some feedback from you guys. But that's my advice, is redirect that energy if you felt that. And I know a lot of people felt that. A lot of good people that I met. Thinking about our times in GDL, thinking of times about being in choir. A lot of good. And we might feel lost. I still feel lost sometimes. That's okay. That's because we're carving our own path. We're no longer following the path that someone made, the path that Nason is making, because they supposedly know the path and they know how to get to the end. No, it's uncomfortable because we're carving our own path. It's uncomfortable because it's now on us. And that's perfectly fine. No one knows the answers. No one really has the answers. It's up to you to follow that. And I think we can do a lot of, especially those that had that good heart, those good vibes, those people that had that good intention, those that I met, we are something, and we can become something even greater for a good purpose. Again, everyone in their own life. I think at the end of the day, it's about figuring out who you are and channeling that and being you, being the authentic you. And there were parts of it that I used in choir that I'm not going to be using in the real world. So that's my advice to you. After analyzing and thinking about what it meant to be in choir, what it meant for me to be feeling the purpose, this was my purpose. Now it's like, all right, I have all this energy. What do I do with all this? All right, let's make a good use out of it. Let's do something about it. You can do something about it. Believe in yourself. You believe so much in this other man. How about you believe in yourself? You believe so much in someone you thought was someone who turns out to be, he's not that person. All right, cool. Let's work on you then. Let's work on yourself. Easier said than done. It's much easier said than done. I'm still dealing with a lot of mental stuff. Like I've said in my previous videos, I have derealization, depersonalization. Could be an awakening. I don't know. But it is a lot. And we just have to work. Our life is, we were already working in church, why not continue working out and now working on ourselves? We were working for the apostle, we were working for the doctrine, we were working for the choir, we were working for other people, we were working for our own parents at a lot of times, working for everybody but yourself. Me as a choir member, that's what I did too. I was there for everybody but myself. It's no matter what age you're at, and that's my belief, we always have time to work on ourselves. Growth is uncomfortable. There's a lot that I'm learning. There's a lot that I'm trying to learn from even my past mistakes and my past life that was church too. I can only invite you all to do the same. Especially those that felt like their purpose, the whole reason was church, was choir. Well, now do it for you. That's my message. There's a message here. How about that? There is a message for this video. I can talk about my experiences, and that's what my channel is about. Me telling you guys my experiences in church. That's what I have. Honestly, you could talk about the Bible, I guess, but first and foremost, these are my experiences that I'm okay with sharing, and what it meant for me to be part of this cult, to be part of choir. and always moving forward. Let's see what we can do. Because I know I'm thankful for the comments that some of you guys leave and telling me a lot of good things. And I hope you guys can feel the same way towards yourself. Because I see that in you all too. Here we are. Some of you guys have already left, have been out longer than I have. Some of you are about to get out. Some of you are barely getting out. And believe in yourself. Whatever purpose you felt that you had in church, you still have a purpose. It might be a little bit different, but we got to find it. And we got to keep moving. That's what I'm taking out when I think about my experience in choir, my time in choir. A lot of beautiful moments, beautiful people I met. And you just gotta learn from it and redirect that purpose that you felt lost. We have it. We gotta find it now in a different way. That's fine. Let's find it. Let's move forward. Let's put an example. Let's be luces en el mundo. No, but seriously, let's just find our purpose. This to me was always my purpose, my whole life. All my 25 years up until when I started questioning, 24 years, 25. This was my purpose. And for that to feel like a waste, nah, it wasn't. You know what it means. Now that I know what it feels to have a purpose, let's now now let's actually find true purpose. Let's use that energy for something good. So that's my message. Let me know, guys, people, y'all. Let me know what y'all think. Shorten my videos, longer. I like to hear some feedback. I like to say, let's work on ourselves. Let's if we haven't figured out our purpose, let's figure it out. Let's find some motivation. Let's transmit that energy that we use in church and use it in our own life, use it for ourselves. Eso es todo. Haya sido para la honra y la gloria del Señor. I'm kidding. But yeah. Alright guys, until next time.